Donald Trump will become the 47th President of the United States.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th President and your 45th President.
So I think we should start off by just saying what's happening, and then my big question is going to be, how should we be thinking about this?
We now know that Donald Trump is returning to the White House. American voters have seen what Trump had to offer, and at least a critical mass of them decided they want to do the same thing again.
I called up some colleagues at Vox to ask what we should be making of this moment, and I ended up spending a long time talking to Zach.
I'm Zach Beecham. I'm a senior correspondent at Vox.
Zach writes about reactionary politics, the right wing, basically. And the thing he really wanted me to understand is that even though the outcome of this election is the same as the 2016 election, the Trump who is about to become president is different.
Donald Trump is much more organized. He knows what he's doing, has a series of distinct policy objectives that he's reiterated again and again. It will be, in a lot of ways, fundamentally different than what we all lived through 4 years ago.
Lock up the Bidens. Lock up Hillary. Lock them up.
The first time Trump was president, he wanted
guys,
to do...
Guys, I've had this question, chat, since the beginning, okay, chat? And I don't think it's a bad question. You know when Kamala had a plan for finance and the whole economy, whatever, right? Is it easier for her, because of the resources that she has as a government, the data that they have as a government, to make a plan compared to Donald Trump, who's at that point just a civilian, right? After he's not in office, he's just a normal... Is it hard for him to make a plan when he has nothing? Not the same thing as when he was president. It's all public. Fair enough.
Do all sorts of very controversial things, and a lot of times he didn't actually end up doing them. One big example is wanting his critics and political opponents to be prosecuted. He was constrained by other parts of the...
Trump wanted to order just a moment to prosecute... Oh, wait a minute. Oh, no, 1 minute. When people do it to him, it's fine. When he says he wants to do it to others, it's not fun anymore.
Opponents to be prosecuted. He was constrained by other parts of the political system, the guardrails of democracy. I'm Andrew Prokop. I cover politics. The guardrails encompass first Congress and the courts, but also within the executive branch, you have Trump's own appointees for top positions who often last time around proved unwilling to carry out some of the things he wanted to do. Then you also have the permanent civil service career employees that he can't fire at will. Well, first of all, the courts have grown more conservative and more Trump-friendly since he put 3 of his own appointees in the Supreme Court. Congressional Republicans have grown much more pro-Trump. Trump and the people around him want hardcore MAGA true believers staffing the government who will not have these pesky...
Hey, but chat, you guys, okay, a genuine question, chat. If 2016 to 2020, he fired some judge, whatever, right, that were blue and then made him red, right, and he controls that. Whenever it was time for Biden to kick in, right, and he did that, why didn't they do the same thing? It wouldn't be weird to do it because then you would just be undoing the damage. Just do that then. You couldn't. Why not? Huh? Then how did the Donnie do it then? They retired. Oh. Well, let's be honest. I feel like if you're red leaning or right leaning, you probably hang out and know and are more fond of right-leaning people. If people died or retired during a blue era, they would have hired probably blue, right?
Staffing the government who will not have these pesky qualms about legality or ethics or things like that. And regarding the civil service, Trump wants to use an executive order to reclassify thousands of people with civil service protections against firing as political appointees who he can fire to then...
I'm not confused anymore. It's libtard rules for thee but not for me shit. And it's in the name of the game these days across the board. I'm I'm tired of it.
Put in a lot of MAGA loyalists in their place. Instead, he's had 4 years to basically stew over, you know, what he didn't get to do last time and what he would do differently if he was given another chance. And now he will seemingly get that chance.
He explained, but I didn't listen.
We're going to have the largest deportation in the history of our country.
The mantra that Trump had on the border on 2016 was build the wall. That was his centerpiece of his immigration platform. That sort of changed over the course of his presidency, and increasingly he wanted to turn his attention not to the border, but to the interior of the U.S., the undocumented population here. I'm Nicole Norea, and I cover politics and immigration for Vox. Under Biden, there were record levels of people arriving on the border. We've seen those numbers come down significantly in 2024, but when Americans are polled, large portions of them say that they want mass deportations. They might—
Okay, whoa, yo, Vox. Hey, I like some of you guys' videos, Vox. I like some of you guys, man. Really, brother? Really? You guys are gonna point at this and then use the like last minute trend as like a what the whole thing is, brother. 4 fucking years, Busta. What the fuck?
But when Americans
4
are
years,
polled,
but
large
what the
portions
fuck?
of them say that they want mass
confused.
deportations. They might be
I
thinking
did
about
listen.
people being deported immediately after they arrive on the border, but that's—
Wait, I did listen now. Are you listening? Oh, hold on.
to the interior of the U.S., the undocumented population here.
I have 2 brain cells left. I gotta rub them together.
Politics and immigration for Vox. Under Biden, there were record levels of people arriving on the border. We've seen those numbers come down significantly in 2024, but when Americans are polled, large portions of them say that they want mass deportations.
Yeah, okay. I listen now. Now I compute. My analysis is people came in. They are now here.
But when Americans are polled, large portions of them say that they—
Now, a lot of people say they want them out. That's intended that these are border encounters. So illegal in, people want illegal out. How is that like, it cannot be rocket science, right? This can't be rocket science. Am I missing the point? So you're saying that, so what you're trying to say is that this is invalid because those guys, they didn't get in. They're not there. What happened? Did these guys encounter the border, got into the country, traversed the country, and went to Canada? Do we have them now? Yo, do I have to ask Justin Trudeau what these guys are at? The fuck? Yo, what the fuck? Border Patrol encounters.
In 2024, but when Americans are polled, large portions of them say that they want mass deportations. They might be thinking about people being deported immediately after they arrive on the border, but that's not what Trump's contemplating. He's trying to go into communities across the U.S., and we're talking about people who have lived here, you know, for years and decades. That would sort of involve huge investments in law enforcement and also the cooperation of local law enforcement agencies, which I'm not sure we would—
Well, people that go in legally have nothing to worry about. But there are people that did the process legally they sleep good at night. Like, brother, what the fuck? Immigrants, legal immigrants, and Mexicans, they sleep without a worry that they're gonna be fucking deported. They got documents. They got their shit straight. The fuck?
See necessarily democratic states, but let's say in states like Texas and Florida, certainly you might find law enforcement willing to cooperate with federal immigration authorities there.
A landmark decision in American history as it relates to presidential power.
When Trump initially took office, the median vote on the Supreme Court was a moderate conservative, someone who would draw—
I want to see good stats. I want to see good evidence of people that have documented being there legally and being kicked out of their homes and being deported. Brother, I will become the biggest fucking ally. If you show me good data, good proof, brother, I will rally all my fucking shit, dude, and I will advocate with all my might against it, because that's fucking bullshit. It should never happen. Until I see it though, we're chilling. Lip tart shit.
All the line somewhere. Then Trump appointed a third of the United States Supreme Court. I'm Ian Millhiser. I cover the Supreme Court at Fox. Trump v. United States is the decision that came down last July concerning Special Prosecutor Jack Smith's indictment of Trump for trying to steal the 2020 presidential election. Trump made this really outlandish argument that he could not be charged with a crime for any official acts he committed while president. Pretty much everyone thought that that argument was silly and ridiculous, and there was no chance that the court would ever adopt it. And then all 6 of the Republican justices adopted it. What that decision said, it said that Donald Trump is immune from criminal prosecution for crimes that he commits using the official powers of office. Trump is allowed to give any order he wants to the Department of Justice. The basic matter is just that anything he does can potentially be beyond the scope of the criminal justice process.
More than 40,000 Palestinians killed since the October 7th Hamas massacre.
Right now, the situation on the ground in Gaza is an extraordinary humanitarian crisis.
Oh, what? Because it's about crimes. That's bad. But dude, I feel like, chat. I feel like there's no way, right? That'll be used for nefarious goals, right? No shot, right? No way that people you use the immunity to do dumb shit, right?
And a moral stain on the United States for enabling so much of this to happen. But it can always get worse. Trump has a blank check approach to Israel. He and his advisors don't believe in any of the...
I thought the meta was able to do war crimes, dude. Do people care more about crimes than war crimes? I'm confused.
Even feeble restraints that the Biden administration had put on Israeli conduct. There are factions inside the Israeli government that have different visions of how to conduct the war. The extreme right on Netanyahu's flank, people like Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir, believe that Trump will let them do what they want based on what he said, what his advisors say, and what his political coalition at home wants.
Are you on board with the way the IDF is taking the fight in Gaza?
You've got to finish the problem.
These people have a maximalist vision of what they want the war to be. Actually seizing and taking Gaza for Israel and returning to settlement, right, to rebuilding Israeli outposts, moving Israeli Jewish citizens in to make sure that its control over the area never slips. That would mean not just temporary eviction of Gazans from their homes and their cities, which would be bad enough. It would mean creating a massive permanent refugee population. Outside of Gaza, in the West Bank, we can only imagine. Previous American position has been you shall not under any circumstances annex parts of the West Bank. It would be Israel declaring, in essence, its willingness to rule over the Palestinians in perpetuity. What I do know for sure is that a Trump administration would do nothing to punish them for it.
Okay. Let's make this quick. I'm Adam. I produced this video. I think it is fair to say this is a...
Trump declared he would veto a national abortion ban if he's reelected.
Trump winning the presidency is not good for abortion rights. I mean, he's been out there claiming that he's the father of IVF, that he's going to be great for women's rights. But he surrounds himself with lots of people who absolutely, do not have that as their goal. I'm Rachel Cohen. I cover social policy at Vox, and I've been really focused on abortion rights
for the last
2.5 years since Roe was overturned. Something that has been confusing for voters is that I don't think we're going to see a federal ban coming out of Congress. The biggest way that Trump could, I think, use his executive power to restrict abortion rights is to push for the enforcement of the Comstock Act on the federal level. The Comstock Act was this law passed in 1873, and among other things, it banned mailing anything associated with abortion. When the Supreme Court legalized abortion nationwide, the Comstock Act was rendered moot. It didn't matter anymore, but Congress never actually repealed it. Now that Roe has been overturned, you have a bunch of conservatives, including J.D. Vance, who are saying now is the time actually to enforce this zombie law that's been on the books for decades that people forgot about, and we should ban anything associated with abortion from being sent in the mail. So that could include not only abortion pills, which are used in the majority of abortion clinics, but it could also mean any medical...
Chat, shouldn't when it's time, when something becomes a zombie law, shouldn't they eradicate stuff like that so that this shit doesn't happen? I feel like there's a little bit of guilty by association when you have the time and power to remove dog shit it's like, oh, this came back. No way they're enacting this. Well, you remove it when it's time to remove it, because then it becomes, if you don't agree with the law, remove it. The fuck?
Equipment associated with, surgical abortion, like dilators or speculums, that would effectively mean a nationwide ban on abortion.
Some might say it's economic nationalism. I call it common sense.
The thing about tariffs is that the president has a lot of unilateral authority to impose them without Congress's will. I'm Eric Levitz, and I write about politics and policy. A tariff is basically a tax on an imported good. Usually the producer passes on the cost of that tax to consumers by charging higher prices to compensate for the tax. Trump's signature proposal on tariffs in the 2024 campaign was a 10% tariff on all foreign imports, regardless of what country they come from and regardless of what kind of good it is, which includes things...
So this is on everything? So what, if I get an iPhone, 10% more off the rip?
That the United States cannot possibly produce. There's no tax that you can put on foreign coffee beans that will make it possible to grow them in New England. The general consensus from economists is that this is going to significantly increase prices for Americans, as well as actually potentially undermining American manufacturing. I think that in general, voters tend to be sympathetic to any protectionist trade policy, but I think that in practice, as we've seen in the Biden years, voters are very sensitive to increases in consumer prices.
How are you to support Canada? The back in 10% general import? Wait, 60 on Chinese? Well, that's all our shit. Wait, brother. All my shit is made in Chinese, brother. Even some of the materials that I get. This is my merch. This is from, I got a bill from Guangzhou Technologies. Wait, hold on. No, wait, 60% on the China things?
Biden years, voters are very sensitive to increases in consumer prices. On the other hand, though, this is something that Trump really genuinely seems to believe and hold as a core economic principle, really since the late 1980s.
We let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade.
Put a 25% tax on products that come into the United States.
So that means that Trump plausibly could enact this tariff even if...
So what we're saying is that we need the sweatshops at home.
Republicans in Congress do not want him to.
It's time to put the divisions of the past 4 years behind us. It's time to unite. And we're going to try, we have to try.
In any democratic system of government, you need nonpartisan civil servants whose job it is to follow and implement the law. A lot of that stuff is technical, from National Parks Administration to the way the Defense Department is run, to the way that we protect and store our nuclear weapons. Trump doesn't like this. Neutral rules of governance obstruct his ability to govern like a kind of machine politician who uses government as a tool of rewarding his friends and punishing his enemies. That's why he hates what he calls the deep state.
Demolish the deep state. Obliterate the deep state. Dismantle the deep state.
We could be in a world where very swiftly, because there are no legislative guardrails against this. What if the IRS is now a fully political agency and audits start coming in along political lines? Businesses or media organizations that are critical of Trump start being harassed using the tax code as a means of punishing them. Think about everything that you rely on government to do. And now imagine those tasks being bent towards political ends. Donald Trump is going to be the next president of the United States again. And this time around, we'll make the first time look like child's play.
Yeah, it's tough to really see it, and it's really tough, I think, to be able to connect with some of those things sometimes, because it's a lot of what ifs, it's a lot of hypotheticals, and the more you go into hypotheticals, the harder it is to understand it, and you have to do a little more research. Honestly, I don't got much brain cells left, and I'm not using none of that for research. Hell no, I'm brain dead. Unless it's a hoax. If it's a hoax, we debunk. If it's a hoax, we will debunk live. Live debuncation. Deportation? No. We do mass debuncation live on stream.